Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zelda Ate My Lunch. Today, I wanted to talk about my top 10 video Zelda games of all time. Um, this is not going to be spoilers. I'm not going to go into huge detail on the stories or anything. I'm just going to how I felt about the game, kind of why I'm numbering it that way. I do want to say that Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild is not my number one. So if that is going to make you rage quit, may as well do it now. But anyway, I'm going to get started here. Let's get started. Let's watch this. So this is Skyward Sword is definitely top 10. It's not any higher than that. This is actually the remake. I just played the remake. If you watched my predictions on Tears of the Kingdom, I think Tears of the Kingdom is either before this or just slightly after Skyward Sword. I love the story in this game. I love some of the mechanics. I love the way they reused the same worlds, but it felt different every time you went into it. You know, it really didn't feel like, oh, I'm going here again. They would open up different areas that you hadn't been to. You had different mechanics going into it. So it really kind of felt alive. There is a couple of things that really detracted from this. Anybody who played the original, trying to get those notes underwater was a real pain in the ass. And actually, the reason that I didn't beat the first when it was on the Wii, I got it day one. I never beat it, largely because Skyrim came out and I really hated the mechanics of this game. And that brings me to the reason that this is top 10, just number 10. This game would probably be around 5 or something like that, top 5. But the mechanics of this game, even in the HD remake, were so bad. I just could not stand them. I couldn't do it. When you had to poke or something like that, or jab or whatever. It just, the mechanics of the Joy-Cons just wouldn't do it. It just would not do it. So it ruined the whole game not the whole game. That's a bit extreme, but it ruined the end. The final boss is kind of a difficult boss as far as Zeldas go, but it is made almost infinitely impossible by the fact of how bad the mechanics are. Anyway, I don't want to detract anybody from playing this game, especially seeing how I think this game is closely tied to Tears of the Kingdom. But the mechanics, even if you try it with the regular Pro controller, it's even worse. But the story is one of the best stories, although at the ending, it's such a shock at the end that it might actually throw you for a loop. So anyway, that's number 10. Number 9 is Wind Waker. I know this is a lot of people's one of their top 3 Zeldas. There's something about the bolt thing that I don't know, just started to annoy the hell out of me. But the number one thing on this, I love the art style of this. It almost didn't need an HD remake. If you look at the difference between the GameCube version and the HD, I mean, obviously there's a difference, but I think of all the games in the Zelda library, this one really didn't need the HD remake. But the story of this is phenomenal. That's why it's in my top 10. Top 10, absolutely phenomenal. The mechanics are absolutely flawless. It works incredible. I love all of the new weapons and everything that you get in this game that you didn't get in previous games. And some of them I haven't seen since. The art style is absolutely phenomenal, like I mentioned. And I like that it's kind of a different story than usual. It's not, it takes you on a different adventure than you're used to in normal Zelda games. I love that part of it. There is an almost open world feel to this game. You can find the different islands. You can find this, you can find that. It really has, it has everything going for it, but the best part of it is the open world-ish kind of, but at the same time, it detracted from it. So I put it at number 9, but it's not a bad game at all. And if they redid it for the Switch, I'd probably buy it. So that's my thoughts on that game. I'll be right back. All right, so in my number 8, here we go. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Number 8 is actually something that I think surprises most people. Is the original Zelda. I really like the original Zelda, and I believe in my mind that Breath of the Wild was a remake of the original Zelda because you could just go anywhere. The learning curve was steep in this game, I'll tell you what. And I don't know of too many people who don't need at least a little help from a guide to get through this the first time. I couldn't find a trailer for it that was actually like that you could actually see what was going on. So I'm just watching somebody's playthrough here. But I liked the fact that you could go to any dungeon, you could get any kind of tools that you want, or the weapons or whatever that you wanted to. There was no limitations whatsoever. It wasn't as linear as the games that came after this, especially the top-down games. It wasn't as linear as that. But there wasn't you really needed the manual for this game to kind of know what was going on. Like if you bought the game, obviously the games used to come with manuals. This actually had a little comic in the manual itself, and it really helped you understand what was going on in the game. It really did. So if you don't have that, I would look it up. If you play this game on the Switch, the NES thing, I believe it actually shows you the manual. If not, look it up. You'll get the whole story kind of behind it, understand what you're doing. But the beautiful part about this is, and of course it's like Mega Man, going to certain dungeons will benefit you more than others, I think. But the fact is that you don't have to do it in that order. And I really like that. So anyway, that is my number 8. Number 7. So this Minish Cap, I never got to play this game until it just came out the other day, I think last month, on the GBA attachment to Nintendo Online. I finally got to play it. It's not in my top 5 or anything like that, but I love the way this game is put together, and whoever took the time to make this game, the way their mind thinks, I just can't even figure it out because of all the different mechanics of this game and for the limitations of the hardware. I like the way that Link is very primitive looking in the beginning. He doesn't have his usual cap, which if you've seen Tears of the Kingdom, he kind of starts, he's like that in that game. I really like that. I like how the difficulty spike on this game, it's a lot more difficult than most top-down Zelda games. I like the story behind the game. I like the fact that you are working with two different, factions almost. You're working with the, Zelda's people or Link's people, and then you're working with the Minish. I don't want to, if I say too much and I give away the story, so I don't want to do that. But I like the way that you're interacting with the two of them. I like all of that. The one problem that I had was I did get tired of some of the mechanics in the game, and the quality of life things that you have now when you have all these buttons on a controller would have been so nice on Minish Cap. You only have the two slots for the different things for like your sword and whatever else you're using. So that part did get annoying. Constantly having to go in and out of the menus, not a fan of, but you will need most likely some kind of guide in certain spots in this. This is definitely more of a difficult Zelda, and I think maybe that's because Capcom was involved. Their games do tend to be a little bit more difficult than Nintendo. Anyway, that was an incredible game. Number 6 is A Link Between Worlds. I really like this game. I like the top-down Zeldas. I like the fact that it really flowed with basically A Link to the Past. It kind of brought me back to my childhood, to be honest with you. And when games do that, I really respect that. I like that it almost used the same exact tools that Link to the Past did. I like the new mechanics where you could, use the 3D and kind of become like a paper Zelda, basically. Here you see it right there. That mechanic did get kind of hard to use sometimes, but it was wonderful. I liked every part of this game. I unfortunately stupidly sold this game, and now I think it sells for $8 million. But this game is 100% check it out if you can afford it, if you can find it. if you have a you like a used, like here we have the exchange. If you have a place where you can get old Nintendo games and stuff like that, sometimes they have them at a weird price, like they don't know the actual market value, and sometimes you get a steal on that. But if not, it's definitely worth it. But if you buy it now, never sell it. All right, so number 5 is actually, I think, most people's number 1 or 2. I couldn't find the original trailers for this, so it's for the 3DS, but it's Ocarina of Time. I really did like this game. I really did. There was some parts of this game that were just, because it was 3D, it was for the first time where, like, when you would fall, like from like a height or something like that, you actually felt like you were falling. It was crazy. The problem with this game for me, and it's probably just specific to me, is during the time that this game came out and I was playing this, I was in a really weird spot in my life. And it always brings me back to that. I almost get PT, like that spot right there. When you fall like that, you really feel it, especially for the first time. This was the first 3D Zelda that we got. The intro to this game really took too long, in my opinion. But back to my story, this game really just gives me feelings of being back in that late high school life. And it was a really trying time for me. So I have weird feelings towards the game myself, because it brings me back to a time when I really don't want to relive. I had such a crazy high school life. But anyways, if you don't have that behind it, this might be like your number 1 or 2 game. It's really that good. The ending is confusing, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But everything else is absolutely phenomenal. All right, Link's...
A classic adventure awaits.
All right, Link's Awakening is my number 4. This game was actually my number 2 for the longest time. But when I really reevaluated it, I moved some others ahead of this. This game is like the perfect game. This is, if you have a Game Boy, this was the game that you had to have of all games, even of like Mario 2, the 6 coins or whatever. This was definitely the best game on Game Boy, hands down. I remember playing this, it was obviously I was at my parents' because it was, that age. And I remember playing this game, sitting on the couch, and it just, there was something that really drew me into this game. It was the story. It was the fact that you could find like these different shells and stuff. I never played the DX version, so luckily I did get to play the DX version when they remade the game. I don't know, just the characters really drew me in. The story drew me in. The colorfulness of it, like the colorfulness of the characters really drew me in. And the ending, I don't know, it was just unlike any Zelda game that I had ever played. And it really stuck with me. Like, I really, like when people asked me back in the day, I said, they would say, what Zelda would you start off with? I actually told them to start off with Link's Awakening. But it was just, it's such a good game. If you don't have the remake on the Switch, 100% worth getting. I think you can get it for like $40 brand new now. But 100% get it. I guess I may as well talk about the remake. I really do like the depth of field. I really like the way they remade this game. I did not try the online or whatever it was aspect of this game, so I don't really have anything to say there. But it's gorgeous. It's an absolute gorgeous game. I love the way they remade this game. Even if you have played the DX version on the GameCube, the remake is definitely worth checking out. Just the amount of work that went into this game, you can clearly see it. It almost feels like a tangible game, like you can reach into it and take out you're like you're in it or something like that. I wasn't actually a fan of this game at first. I rented the game on whatever, the GameFly, is that what it's called, when it first came out. And then I saw it for $39.99, and I'm like, you know what? I got to try it out again, because this was a favorite game. I normally never replay games. When I replay a game that I really like it, and this was definitely worth the replay. All right, this game right here, Twilight Princess, is my number 3. I think a lot of people don't really like this game. Of all Zeldas, I think this is an absolute love or hate. It's kind of like Zelda 2. You either really like it or you really don't. I like Zelda 2, but it's not in my top 10. This game, if I were to like beg for a remake, this would be my number 2 to remake for sure. This game I've actually replayed 3 times, and I guarantee if they put it on the Switch, I would buy it again. Especially if they threw another one in Amiibo and like they did with the Wii U. The tale in this game, the mechanics in this game, the emotions in this game, the ending of this game are all just so phenomenal. I know a lot of people have issue with the dungeons. I guess, if you come from it as somebody who really likes JRPGs or RPGs, the dungeons in this are really good. If you're somebody who doesn't like dungeons and RPGs, you're more just because Zelda's not really a JRPG, but it kind of is. If you're not into that, if you're more into the action role-playing games like Zelda tends to be, you might not like the dungeons in this game. But yeah, this game, I really want to say more than I can, but then I would spoil the game. But it's definitely a check it out. I'm like watching this old ghost town here. It just has a different feel than other Zeldas. It has a very somber feeling almost in this game. I don't know. And then the only thing that I'm really not a huge fan of in almost any game is when you have to use a horse. I don't ever think it works very well. Here, it's all right. If I don't have to use a horse, I don't know what it is. All games that use a horse, it's kind of like games that use a bicycle. It just never seems to work out right. But check it out. It's a phenomenal game. I'm hoping they do a HD remake for the Switch, because if not, what else are you going to play it on? Like 3 people have a Wii U. I had one. It stopped working. That's the first Nintendo game system that I ever had that ever stopped working. But yeah, if you like traditional RPGs, JRPGs, and you like Zelda, this is definitely the one to check out. This is the most surprising Zelda game I think I know that anybody's ever played. This is one of the most surprising games anybody's ever played. I don't know how they did this, even with the Switch software or the Switch hardware. I mean, Breath of the Wild, you can do anything. You can go anywhere. This is also like the original Zelda on the NES, where you can literally just go to any dungeon. Well, there's not really any dungeons, but you can go anywhere and start anywhere that you want to. Now, the punishability of going to places that you might not be equipped for is extreme. But I will tell you this, when I first got into this game, I went to every single one of those towers first. That way I could see the entire map. But there was definitely areas that I just was so under equipped for. But the fact that you could go anywhere, climb anywhere, kind of build almost anything. The one part that I think a lot of people had issue with is the fact that the weapons only have a certain amount of life to them and then they'll shatter, break, whatever. Sometimes that can be used to your advantage. The other part is here, the horse mechanics. I was not a fan of the horse mechanics in this one whatsoever. The other thing that people might have a hard time with is some of those enemies are going to destroy you. The other bad part about this game, and the reason it's not number 1, is the shrines. There's like 109 or 115 or 25 shrines. But the DLC on this are phenomenal. But the problem I have is after I've beaten a game, I'll never play it again for the most part. So when the DLC came out with the motorcycle, I mean, I had already beaten the game. I tried going back in and using a motorcycle a few times. I was just over it. I did like the first DLC that came out. And I kind of wish the first DLC that came out was the second DLC, because the second DLC, some of that stuff I really would have liked to have when I played the game before I beat it. I'm just one of these people, especially these huge open world games. If I've beat it already, chances are I'm just not going back to it. I beat it a couple months after it came out. I really haven't played it since. But it is, if you have to start somewhere in a Zelda, this might be the one for you. Some of the other games that I've mentioned, if you like top-down or if you like linear games, that's definitely some of the other games I've mentioned is a place to start. If you're somebody who really likes open world, you really like Zelda, you like a Zelda that finally kind of has a story, this is definitely the one for you. The emotions, the voice things that you find, it's so well put together. I mean, it won like every game of the year award for a reason. It's just that game. It really is. It's not the hardest Zelda by any means. It's weird because some of the enemies that you'll run into out on the fields are way harder than the enemies that you're going to find in the, well, we'll just call them dungeons. So yeah, check it out. 100%. One of the best games I've ever played in my life, not just Zelda. And my number one game is my first game that I ever played in the Zelda series. And it's weird because Nintendo Power was a magazine that I bought, used to subscribe to back in the day. And my mom asked for the Super Nintendo for Christmas one year. And my mom actually originally bought me A Link to the Past. And then Matt, my buddy Matt and I were always talking about how we you know, who wants to play this Zelda game. So she took it back and she got Castlevania 4 for me instead. Before, this is before before I even knew that she got this. Next year, I think for my birthday or something like that, I got Link to the Past. This is my favorite game. There's so many dungeons. There's so many just little things that you can find. There's you tempering the sword, you turn your sword orange. Some of the hardest bosses I've ever played in a Zelda are in this game. This is the only Zelda that I've played 3 times, if not 4. This game is like, if I had to rank my top 50 games, this game would definitely be in the top 3. It has everything. It has, unless you're one of these people that needs 3D open world or whatever, but the story, it grips you from the beginning to the end. The fighting, the mechanics, the look of it, the fact that the overworld changes after a certain point, and just really brings in that sense of like overall like doom and gloom. It has everything. It's just my favorite game, like almost of all time. There is a couple of games that are above it that I will talk about at some point, but Zelda's coming out in a couple of weeks. I'm really going to focus on Zelda's. This game, you can probably beat this game probably in like 2 or 3 days. So if you've never played this and you really want to get that hype for Tears of the Kingdom, definitely check out A Link to the Past. So if you really want to check this game out and you have a Switch, it's on the SNES online service thing. 100%. Definitely can beat this game 2 to 3 days, maybe even a day if you really know what you're doing, but you probably don't if you've never played it before. This game will set you up, get you ready for Tears of the Kingdom, and you'll be on your way, running with it. It's just such a good game. It is my favorite Zelda game by far. You have to really play it to understand what I'm talking about. It's that game. It's the game that I really, 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 really don't understand why they don't have a remake for. It is like almost everybody's favorite Zelda game who's been in the Zelda world for a very long time. I don't know why they haven't remade it. I know they said Link Between Worlds is kind of a remake. Not in my opinion. If this got the Link's Awakening treatment, I mean, I just hand over my money right now. I'd play it for a 4th or 5th time. It's just that good of a game. Anyway, that is my top 10. Hopefully you liked it. Comments, questions down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next one.